So I have been out of high school for 2 years now, and this school was supposed to prepare me for the real world. But let me tell you now that I was not prepared. So today I'm going to interview my 9th grade English teacher to ask her why she did not warn me or anybody. Alright, so I'm here with my 10th grade teacher, English teacher, Miss Brennan. She might be a little bit camera shy, but I am here to ask you, why did you not tell me about the real world?
Okay, well, I tried. Well, we learned about some literature, so we learned about some things that were going on in life, but yeah, probably not everything. Yeah. Not about YouTube, not about podcasts.
I wanted to ask a couple questions just to see your point of view. So the first question I have is, do you think the school curriculum is more based off of an agenda that somebody wants to be, or for the better of the student?
Well, I think that the intention is for it to be, for the betterment of the student, of course. Mm-hmm. We have what are called the California State Standards, which I won't get all into that. But there are certain skills in each class that students need to get mastery in. But I do think that some of those things, me personally, sometimes always don't translate into the real world. I think studying poetry is wonderful. It's good for humanity and good for your heart, but if you want to go and become like an airplane mechanic, poetry is probably not going to help you out there. So I think that it's intended to be helpful, but I think over the years as an educator, I think it's better to kind of see what kids need, and maybe if we could individualize or find some skills that are, things that are going to help them more so with exactly what goals that they have in life. I think that would be ideal, because then you're going to have student buy-in. They're not going to, I'm listening to this poem and I'm like, that's great, Miss Brennan, but it doesn't really apply to me, and I know it doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, the one thing about school that I think is too much is expecting every student to have 100% focus on something that they do not have 100% interest in. I've made a video on YouTube education compared to school education, a couple of things I compared, but one of the things is that teachers also teach something that they're being told to teach, where educators on a platform are able to teach what they enjoy to teach, and for somebody to watch a video on that just shows that they are interested in watching it. Unlike school, where the student has to participate every day, has to come into class and half of the time half asleep, and have to sit through a 45-minute class where they don't want to be there and they just think of it of wasted time.
Right, and I do agree. I think that like you're saying with the YouTubers who are that's their passion, and then they have this really fun outlet to, and and kids can do it, watch whenever they want to. It's hard, because school is, from 8 to whatever it is, 2:30 or something like that, that we do have a time frame that we have students. And I do feel like it can get a little bit stale. And, we as educators, hopefully we'll be able to spice it up and make it a little bit more attractive. I do think the pandemic has also kind of shown kids that they need more breaks or free time, or get into their interests. And I think as educators, maybe we could kind of help build that time into our classroom so they don't feel so I'm just here, I'm sitting, it's 45 minutes, because I think that can be lead to burnout. So that's one thing. But I also think educators, I teach English and I love teaching English. There are things that I need to teach that aren't as not my favorite, but that's with anything that you have to do. It's you're not always going to get to do just the things that you love. But there are so many things that I think that kids don't realize that what we're teaching them is transferable. That there are things that seem boring at the time, but it is a transferable skill. Learning how to speak, in front of your class is really scary for kids. But then you can transfer that into your YouTube channel or your podcast. So those things that might seem mundane, or I'm just going to school to do this. I think that sometimes, students need to see there is a value to it, because this skill I can transfer, even though I might be presenting on, the Odyssey, which is super boring, but I could take this skill and turn it into my YouTube channel. So
that's one of the things I wish I would have also focused on, more of the skills and more of things of doing things. If I would have presented more, I feel I would have been more comfortable behind the camera faster than I took, because when I started, I was a little nervous, nerve-wracking. But one of the things with school that I think also can be better would be school teaches random facts most of the times. They like to put out knowledge instead of putting out skills and developing the person's skills, like you said, that we need to help the kids with what they like to do. Is there anything you think the school system can add into either any subjects that can make it more fun for the students, or even add value to the students?
Yeah, I think one of the things is it's like you were saying, our curriculum comes from like a company, to our district, to us, the teachers. I think it would be nice if we had students in there, like a student advisory board at some point, even if it's like what is it like that interests you? Like not, and I don't mean like, oh, I'm really into like football or something like that, but like what is out there right now that is a transferable skill that I can help teach you in my class that, like you said, that, so I was just saying like to you, like watching this process, I'm thinking like, I would love to now build this into my English class. Like, okay, so like how could you outline something, you know, and then present it? You don't maybe present it in front of the class, you now present it, you know, in a video format like this with lights and everything, or you do a podcast where you have to understand like the electronics behind it. But the bummer part about some of that is that like some of the teachers like, I don't know that stuff, so I would need the kids to like teach me and help me. So I think that like if we had that information maybe at the beginning of the school year, students like kind of helped us out with that, and then we would know like, okay, now it's almost like we're like a team. Like I've got, you know, the years and the teaching and the content, but you can tell me more so like how to like deliver that, or how that I can tailor it so it helps you in your future.
Yeah, and as we were talking earlier as well, the retention span of kids nowadays, or just human being in a whole, is starting to get shorter, and to try to grab people's attention, especially for that long, it might be hard. One thing that I wanted to ask is, how do you feel when a student is not reaching their full potential, or when you feel they can reach their potential?
How do I feel about it? I feel so sad because I see like kids that are really, really smart, but they are like unmotivated sometimes, and it just breaks my heart because I'm like, you are so great at this, like just keep coming, like just keep working at it, you know. But I understand that it's hard because it's like you said, like it's not interesting. This is 45 minutes, or this is, you know, these just feel like facts. I don't see the connection. So I think that one of the things is, and I try to do with each of my students, is have like, you know, have some sort of a like a relationship where it's not just teacher student, but also like I know you as a person, I know about your football or whatever, or I know about your family, and hopefully like realizing that I'm on the same side as that student is, so that they feel like, you know, I'm fighting for you. It might feel like I'm fighting with you at sometimes because I'm like, need you to turn in your work or this or that, but I always, you know, want to support my students and to make them feel like even if it's not happening right now, I know some of my students will be okay. Like even if it's like, oh, they're gonna struggle a little bit, but I know that they're gonna make it. For some of my students that like struggle and there's like a skill set that seems very low, that makes me much more nervous for that student, because I get nervous that they, with their lack of motivation, then it makes me feel like, well, they're kind of widening their gap in their own education or in their own skill set. So like if you didn't do that great in 10th grade English, like, well, now 11th grade English will be harder, 12th grade English will be harder, and then I'm always like, I want to see you at your graduation. That's my biggest, you know, one of my biggest goals. So there's two things. So one, if a student I know can meet the potential but they're just not doing it, I worry less about them, but I still am always going to fight for them to reach their maximum potential. And then the student that I see has a lower skill set, that's when I try to, you know, do as much as I can, tutoring, you know, appeal to their heart, appeal to their, you know, logic or whatever, just trying to say like, come and see me. And something we have now that you didn't have, it was called pack time, which is like 20 minutes within school to come and see teachers. So trying to get those kids to actually come and just do the work and let me help you. That's another thing, like, let me help you. And some students are like, you know, English isn't my thing. It's like, it's okay, but like I still want to help you, and I still know that you can do better. So it's like almost like coaching. You like want to push to make them.
I was one of those students that said that English wasn't my thing. But Ms. Brennan did a great job with building a relationship. You really did have a little connection with mostly everybody in our class. Like in my class, we had fun.
You sure
we had some troublemakers in there, but we still did our work. And one thing you might find surprising is after high school, I read more books than I have in high school.
Very nice. What type of books?
Self-improvement books.
Okay.
So some of the books I've read is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
The Millionaire Success Habits.
Okay.
I'm about to read one that's called The Art of War. So that kind of helps with the process of, you know, art and how tedious it can be. I find that with school, they teach books like Mice of Men and many others.
Yeah.
Do you think that implementing any of those, at least once a year, implementing one of those self-improvement or even financial books would help a ton with students?
I think so. And you didn't do any of those in econ or anything like that?
No.
No, okay.
No.
So
econ. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Econ was more of a supply and demand, more of a like chain of a company, and how one other thing I just want to add on with that I think econ can do a little bit better on is maybe add stocks into it. Maybe teach a little bit more about the companies and themselves and how they work and how you're even able to help those companies, and those companies can help you as well. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's perfectly good. I just wanted to make sure we weren't like double dipping. But I actually was literally in Barnes & Noble, and I looked at The Art of War yesterday, and I was like, I want to read that book. So I would love to, especially in 12th grade. Our curriculum's a little bit different, where you have more like life skill type things. So units, I should say. So I think that that's something that I would like to talk about with the new group going into it. Like, can we get a book that, that type of a book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I've heard that one a lot.
So a great book. That one taught me the difference between assets and liabilities. Okay. So something that will help you grow your money and make your money work for you, compared to something that will waste your money and keep you living paycheck to paycheck.
Right. And that's important. Like, we were kind of talking about, like, my dad was like, my grandfather was the son of an immigrant, and so that type of thing. So it's like building wealth over time. Like, it takes time, and you have to be, educated on that type of stuff. So I feel like, I'm looking at students who might be of immigrant families that are going to have to kind of be like, the major starter of like that type of mentality. Like, what are assets and everything? I mean, maybe parents aren't thinking about that. I don't know. But, and I think that's something that should be taught, and I would love to teach something like that. I want to teach something that's going to help my students. So no matter what. So if that's something, then I would love to.
I think every subject can implement even a little tiny bit of, like, I was thinking about it, like math. When do you ever really use like the linear equation, y equals mx plus b? And like one of the great things that they can teach is like how stocks work, like that's probably the only math I've done out of high school, is trying to calculate the shares compared to the percentage of how much a dividend would pay you out, or compared to how much it multiplies. I don't know if you know.
No, and that's the other thing. I'm thinking, like, while you're talking, I'm like, I don't even know that, and I'm older than you. So that's nuts, and I think like that is maybe something that's really just missing in our greater society, is a deeper understanding. I even told you, like, when I first got a job, like, I had to go to my mom, and I'm like, I don't know how to do taxes, or I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. Even now, sometimes I'm like, what am I doing, Mom? And I'm like grown with a kid and a career, and so I feel like that is something that clearly.
Well, if you ever want me to help you with investments, one of the most proven facts is that keeping your money in cash will lose your money, and keeping your money in investments will 80-90% of the time grow your money, especially if you do it for the long term. So there's many ways you can invest. I don't want to get too into it. We'll do another video if you like. Whenever I meet somebody, I always ask, what's your goal in life, and what are you doing with your finances? Because in life as a whole, that's probably the two most important things until you're financially off to where you don't even need to worry about money. But other than that, pretty sure 80% of the people wake up every day and the first thing on their mind is either their money or going to work.
Yeah, right.
So 100%. That's the one thing I've been trying to spread out. One thing I wanted to bring up is that I just got a membership to MasterClass.
Oh,
do you know what that is?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I was gonna ask, do you think that learning virtually over camera on a phone will eventually be the next level of learning? Maybe YouTube with the people that like to teach about things like this, as well as MasterClass, where people that have done what people want to be are able to share their routine habits and how they made it to where they have. Will also teach more combined than what school will end up teaching you for the real world.
With that, I think that yes, when you have a passion or you have a desire or you have a drive, you'll do anything to get educated on. You'll do all of the research, and you'll find the people, and you'll keep being motivated because you have that drive. The one thing I think, if we asked high school kids to do that, which we kind of found out during the pandemic, there isn't a huge drive to want to learn these things. But even though we don't use them all, it do have building blocks. That's what public school or public education is about, to making sure that everybody has a baseline literacy. So I think that there were two things that would have to change, kind of like what you were talking about before. We would have to start to drive towards student-led interest, which means school would have to change a bit. So if we went to just video-based, for students to be more video-based, I feel like they would have to find that motivation. And some students need time to figure out what it is that motivates them, or what is it. A lot of kids are like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know what I'm doing. So, and that's fine. But sometimes I think people are watching, social media or YouTube out of entertainment, and not exactly 100% like this is pushing my goal. So I think that's like there's two sides.
Double-ended sword.
Yeah.
So it's either you're on the good side of social media, or you're on the wasting time where you just end up swiping through Instagram and 5 hours end up passing by, and you're like, what did I do with my... And I've been at that point. For me, I used to get frustrated over myself. I used to tell myself I was gonna do something and then end up on TikTok 3 hours, and you're like, where did my time even go? And then like I would get mad at myself because I wouldn't do what I wanted to do. I'm pretty sure it's like that for a lot of people, especially for the young people that when they're in high school they don't really have too many worries. So like it's easier for them to waste their time. And then once you end up in the real world and you're wasting the time that you were wasting when you were young, you end up seeing that it will dramatically affect you more than it did while you were in high school.
Yeah, like it costs you in a sense almost, right? Because you're like, I got
time is money.
Right. Oh my God, my son says that to me.
One of the last questions I wanted to ask was, what do you think about college?
Okay, great question, because I feel a lot of it about college. I love college. I think it's great. If you know, like I want to be an English teacher, so I need to go to college. I have to go to actually 2-3 colleges, and I got my master's and all that stuff. So that is for me. My ex-husband is an electrician. College is not for him. So if he was in my class, you know, or a student like him is in my class, then I wouldn't push that. I would push me. No, I wouldn't push, but you know, get into a trade, do that. The thing that worries me about some students is the fact that I feel like junior colleges are kind of talked down, like, oh, you must go to a 4-year, and then that gets them into a huge debt. And then it's like, okay, now you've got this huge debt, and do you have the skills to get that career? You know, did you finish? So
do you actually want to do that career?
Again, right? Because I agree. I like went and worked outside. I got my BA in English, and then I went and I worked for like 4 or 5 years, and then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want a career. And then I went back and so I needed a break anyway, because there was a lot of schooling. But so I think like that makes me nervous about kids or students, is like, don't put yourself in debt.
Especially since they feel like forced to go, especially like you said, a lot of families immigrate. The best thing they can do and tell their kids to do is do everything that the school tells you to do. And I said this in my video, but everything that the school is telling you to do is basically what the government wants you to learn. And in my opinion, I think at the end of the day, I think school teaches students how to be an employee instead of an employer. Even teachers, like you said, you go from school to school to school to school. Some teachers don't even know what the life out of school is, and then end up also pushing it on their students, thinking it's the best thing for them, and no matter what, it's gonna be like the savior of their life, and it's gonna push them to be the best. I saw a statistic that where 70 to 80% of people with their degree from college don't even find the use from that, and don't even end up using it for what they went for, and just end up in a big old pile of debt.
Right, I agree. I mean, I still have teacher friends that are like, I'm still paying off whatever, and I'm like, you're in your career, like, and I was lucky. I basically worked full-time and went to school full-time, so I didn't have it, and I didn't take out any loans. I just was like, if I worked, then I got to go to school. You know what I mean? So it was, but that just makes me nervous, because I also will hear people kids will be like, oh, I'm going to get this, I have this really cheap loan, but I'm going to buy a car and all this stuff. I'm like, what are you doing?
Then just pile even more debt.
Yeah.
So that's most of the questions I have. I love the conversation we had, and I would love to come back and teach you some things about investing and all that. I'm still learning, but the more knowledge that's spread out, the better.
You know more than me, I'll tell you that for sure.
So thank you for the interview, Ms. Brennan. If you can, let them know to like, comment, and subscribe.
You need to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, because Joshua is amazing.
Yes.
And you should be a part of it.
And Ms. Brennan is amazing. She is one of my favorite teachers. That is why I always come back and visit. And thank you. That's pretty much it. Remember to always stay positive and enjoy the vibes. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
That's awesome.